When I recall my childhood, the same picture always appears before my mind's eye. Two little girls running barefoot across the lawn near Grandpa's cottage, clutching handfuls of picked flowers, with the rays of the setting sun enveloping everything in a warm amber glow. One of them is me. The other is my younger sister, Isabella. We were like Siamese twins. My name is Sophia, and I'm 4 years older than her. I protected her from everything in the world, from neighborhood bullies, from our parents during their arguments, from her own nightmares. In turn, she idolized me, to the point of obsession, it seemed to me. When I went to school dances, Isabella would sob hysterically. When I left for university, she sent me emails every few days, sharing how much she missed me and eagerly awaited my return. I always thought she would become my closest friend. The family I chose of my own free will. When I turned 25, I met Nathan. He was the type of person who inspires trust right away, a steady gaze, a gentle smile, a talent for listening. He wasn't talkative. But when he spoke, every word touched the soul. We met at a bistro where I often stopped by after work. He had just become the manager there. He saved me when I spilled tea on important papers. That's how it started. A year and a half later, we moved in together. Another year and a half after that, we got married. I was on cloud nine. Truly. When I told Isabella about the upcoming wedding, she squealed with delight. She jumped around like crazy, hugged me tightly, shed tears. She volunteered to be my maid of honor. I can still see how she glowed during the rehearsal and kept saying, "Sophia, you deserve all of this. He adores you. I see how he looks at you." And I trusted her. After the wedding, life flowed on as usual. Nathan and I settled into a new home, not huge but cozy. I changed jobs, got a position at an advertising firm. Nathan stayed in the hotel industry. Isabella started visiting us often. At first, on weekends. Then more and more frequently. She was studying marketing, but at that time she had a creative block. And she often stayed with us under the pretext that it was too chaotic at home, while our place was quieter, easier to focus. I didn't mind. I adored my sister, and Nathan seemed to as well. They got along great. Maybe even too great, but back then I didn't pay attention. I was thrilled that the two people dearest to me had hit it off. Sometimes, I'd enter the room where they were talking. And I'd catch a strange feeling, like they were sharing something not meant for my ears. As if they had a secret understanding. Hidden from outsiders. But I chalked it up to my own paranoia. One dinner stands out vividly. The three of us were eating. Isabella was telling some funny story. Nathan was laughing, from the heart heartily. And I sat there watching them. Then he said, "You know, Sophia, you have an amazing sister. If I had one like her, I'd burst with pride." And I forced a smile. But inside, something stung. A couple of months passed. I noticed Nathan starting to disappear from home more often. He explained it as a ton of tasks at work. That they were launching a new department. That he was exhausted. Around the same time, Isabella started showing up less. She said she was buried in internships. But soon I realized their absences started syncing up. Time and again, I convinced myself everything was fine. That it was a coincidence. That I was being suspicious. Nathan and I had been married for 5 years already. Yes, the passion had faded. Yes, there were arguments over trivial things, plans, finances. But who doesn't argue? I even shared our issues with Isabella. And she nodded sympathetically, patted my shoulder, and comforted me. "He's still in love with you, Sophia. Guys just withdraw sometimes. Don't worry about it." Her words felt like balm. But later, they turned to poison. Sometimes, I'd overhear their messages. He'd brush it off. "It's about work," she'd say. We're just chatting, don't worry. And I believed them. Because I wanted to believe. Because damn it, she's my sister. When I mentioned to Mom that Isabella often helped us out, she smiled and said, "Of course she's always adored you, you're her idol." And I was proud of that. I thought this is true family bliss. But that night, when Nathan's phone rang, everything I knew about family, attachment, and trust collapsed. After that call, I felt something like a premonition of disaster for the first time. It wasn't a lightning strike. More like a slight, nasty squeeze under the diaphragm. Women's intuition, which no matter how hard you try, senses deceit. The phone buzzed late, around midnight. Nathan was at the sink, rinsing dishes after dinner. The screen flashed for a moment, and out of the corner of my eye I saw the name, Isabella. He quickly grabbed the gadget, turned away, and whispered almost inaudibly, "Hello, yeah, me too, no, not right now." In a whisper, almost silently. A tone that didn't sound friendly, not like how a brother-in-law and sister-in-law talk. I said nothing. I just stared at his back, at his tense shoulders, at how he lowered his voice when I approached. When he hung up, I asked, "Was that Isabella calling? Is everything okay?" He flinched, but quickly forced a smile. "Oh yeah, she was just asking about that coffee maker we bought. She wants one like it." It sounded plausible. Almost. In the morning, I decided not to dig. But the feeling of something wrong wouldn't let go. Isabella hadn't called me just to chat in a long time. We used to talk for hours. Now short texts. Busy. Call you later. A deadline. She even skipped my birthday. Then apologized. "Sorry, Sophia, I was swamped, but I'll make it up." Make it up. What the care, the tenderness, the sisterly bond. A week later, I accidentally found a new notes app on Nathan's phone. He never used it before. But now there was something there. I opened it. The first thing that hit me. Need to buy that cream she loves. At first, I thought it was about me. Until I saw below. She mentioned the scent reminds her of that morning after. After what? My pulse froze. I stood in the middle of the living room with the device in my hand, feeling like reality was slowing down. My fingers trembled, the screen blurred before my eyes. I scrolled further and found. "Tell her the meeting fell through, she's waiting at the studio." I knew where Isabella worked. A design studio in the center. That evening, I broke down and called her. "Hey, how was your day?" I asked as evenly as possible. "A nightmare," she sighed. "This boss is pressuring me again. I'm stuck at home, sorting materials." At home. I glanced at the clock. It was exactly 9. And that's when Nathan said he had meetings with partners. I knew I had to stop. Not fantasize, not give in to hysteria. But inside, a crack had already formed. I threw on a jacket, left the house, and headed to the center. The wet sidewalk sparkled under the streetlights. The rain hadn't poured yet, but the air was cool and oppressive, like before a storm. When I reached the design studio building, the entrance was already closing. But I saw them through the window. They were standing close. Too close. He smoothed her hair. She giggled. He leaned in, not kissing, but intimately enough that it didn't look like friendship. I didn't go inside. I just stood on the sidewalk, tears rolling down my cheeks. Thinking, am I losing my mind? Is this not what I imagine? I didn't say a word to him. Not that night, nor the next. I changed. Became quieter, more vigilant. He started noticing. "What's wrong with you, Sophia?" he asked one morning. I shrugged. "Just tired." He gave me a probing look, like he sensed something. But didn't press. Then I started looking for evidence. Not on purpose, my eyes just caught on little things. Once, while cleaning, I found a woman's earring under the sofa. Not mine. I knew all my jewelry by heart. At first, I thought maybe a friend left it. Then I remembered. Isabella had recently helped Nathan with a project, and they took some photos together. I pulled out the earring and recognized it instantly. A small gold hoop with a leaf pendant. A gift I gave her myself for Easter. I called her again. Izzy, I found your earring at our place, probably when you stopped by. Really? She replied quickly. Oh yeah, must have dropped it. Thanks for finding it. Her tone was too rushed. Too rehearsed. After that call, I sat in the living room staring into an empty coffee mug. Until it got dark. A couple of days later, I gave in and told everything to my friend, Laura. She knew all three of us had been to our house. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. Then she said, Sophia, I'm sorry, but this looks extremely suspicious. You think I'm crazy? No, she said gently. I think you're just too trusting of people. Laura advised me to talk to Nathan directly. I gathered my courage. That night, he came home later than usual. I sat in the living room, waiting. When he entered, I blurted out. Where were you? At meetings. With whom? He frowned. What's with the interrogation? I stared into his eyes and said, with Isabella. He froze. For a moment, but I caught it. That fleeting moment of confusion. And then feigned surprise. What with Isabella? No, of course not. Why are you even asking? I said nothing. I just got up and went to the bedroom. And he stood in the doorway, fuming and pretending he didn't understand a thing. The next day, Isabella showed up at my place. Unannounced, without calling. She looked strange, tense, a bit disheveled. But with a smile. Sophia, she started, I wanted to make sure everything's okay between us. Why wouldn't it be? I tried to keep my tone even. Just, Nathan mentioned you seem down. He told you that? I asked quietly. Yeah, she replied, unaware of how she was giving herself away with every word. He's worried about you. I just nodded. And for the first time in my life, I felt not tenderness toward her, but a cold, burning antipathy. A few more weeks passed. And I wasn't sleeping at night. I'd listen as he got out of bed, supposedly to the bathroom, and called someone in the living room. Once I crept closer and heard, I miss you too, yeah, we'll see each other soon. Then came what confirmed everything. I went to Mom's for a couple of days, to help with rearranging. Nathan said he'd stay, he had things to do. On the third day, Mom got sick, and I came back early. Around 10 in the evening. Nathan's car wasn't in the parking lot. But the lights were on in the house. I entered quietly. And heard laughter. Female. I stepped into the living room, empty. But on the sofa, glasses, a blanket, a bottle of wine. And on the armrest, a scarf. Her scarf. Blue, fluffy, with embroidered letters. I sat on that same sofa, where they had probably been together a couple of hours ago. And felt something dying inside me. It wasn't even rage. It was emptiness. A cold, sticky void where no room was left for doubts. A few days later, I invited Isabella over. Said I wanted to talk. She came as if nothing happened, with a smile like nothing was wrong. Izzy, I said when we sat down, just be honest. Of course. Did you sleep with Nathan? She paled. For a moment. Then she forced a chuckle. What nonsense, of course not. Isabella, I raised my eyes, I know. Her lips trembled. She tried to say something but couldn't. Then she just lowered her head. And I heard her whisper. It was just once. The world collapsed. She tried to justify herself. She sobbed, said it was a mistake. That we got drunk. That he said you two were fighting. I listened and couldn't breathe. Then I said, leave. She cried, begged. But I just repeated, leave. Nathan, when I talked to him, didn't deny it. He said, I don't know why it happened. It doesn't mean anything. Nothing. To him, nothing. To me, everything. I packed my things and went to Mom's. For 3 months, I lived in silence. Didn't talk to anyone. The phone was silent. Then a message came. From Isabella. 4 pages long. She poured out that she loves me. That she can't live with the guilt. That Nathan was a mistake. That nothing lasts. But I knew it did last. Deep down, I knew. When someone betrays you, the pain burns from within. But when it's your own sister, the pain becomes unbearable. You can't scream or cry, only silence remains. Thick, dead, viscous like tar. For 3 weeks, I barely left my room at Mom's house. Mom tried to talk, but I brushed her off. She didn't know the whole story. I just said Nathan, and I split up. Once she gently asked, did you fight because of another woman? I wanted to say yes. But my tongue wouldn't move. I couldn't say. Because of Isabella. At first, I thought the agony would dull. But it only deepened. Every little thing reminded me of them. Nathan always made coffee in the mornings. Now the smell of coffee made me nauseous. Isabella loved jasmine, and even the scent of air fresheners infuriated me. I tried not to think. But the thoughts returned. How could they? Why them? One day, a month later, Mom brought an envelope. This is for you, Sophia, from Isabella. I wanted to throw it away, but my hand trembled. The envelope was cream-colored, with elegant handwriting. It was dated 5 days ago. I opened it. Sophia. If you're reading this, it means I finally dared. I know I'm not worthy of your mercy. But please, at least hear me out. Tears flowed on their own. I reread paragraphs multiple times. Each passage sounded like an excuse. It happened that night when you two argued. He said you might split up. We got drunk. I don't know what came over me. And then, the phrase that twisted me. I can't say I felt nothing for him. I'm ashamed to admit, but he's always appealed to me. I tore the letter in half. Then again. And again. Until the scraps fell to the floor. Like ashes from burned memories. A couple of days later, Mom called me to the living room. Sophia, she said carefully, I think you should talk to Isabella. No. She calls me every day, cries, says you won't answer. And I won't. Mom sighed deeply. I know it's hard for you, but she's your sister. I raised my head. And she was. But I couldn't avoid Isabella. A week later, she came herself. I heard a knock on the door. Then her voice, muffled, trembling. Sophia, please, I need to say this face to face. I didn't want to open it. But Mom peeked around the corner with pleading eyes. I gave in. Isabella stood on the doorstep in a black coat. Face pale, eyes red. Can I come in? I silently stepped aside. She sat at the table. Hands shaking. For a while, we just sat in silence. Then she said, I don't expect you to forgive me. Good, then why did you come? I asked coldly. To tell you, I broke up with him. I snorted. How noble, after ruining my life. I know, she whispered. I think about it every day. I don't sleep, don't eat. I cut her off. Don't pretend to be the victim. She burst into tears. Sophia, I really want to fix everything. How? I asked. Give me back my marriage, erase the memories. There was no answer. Mom entered the living room and tried to reconcile us. Girls, your family. I looked at her and said, Mom, stay out of it. But you're both dear to me. Then don't choose sides, I said and stood up. Just leave it as is. Isabella tried to touch my hand. Please don't hate me. I pulled away. I don't hate you. Really? No, Isabella, to hate, you need to feel something. And I feel nothing. After that conversation, she left. I hoped forever. But that was just the beginning. A few weeks later, I returned home. The home where everything reminded me of him. Where the air seemed to absorb the scent of their betrayal. Nathan tried to contact me, sent texts, called. Long messages. Give me a chance to explain. I've realized everything. I can't live without you. I never responded. Once I ran into him at the store, face to face. He looked exhausted, thinner. Tried to smile. Sophia, you've lost so much weight. You too, from remorse probably. He looked down. I'm not making excuses, but I miss you. Too late, I said. I'm not the same person you were with anymore. He looked at me with eyes full of pain. I love you, Sophia. You only love yourself, I said quietly and walked past. It seemed like it was over. But fate loves to mock. A couple of months later, Mom called and said, Sophia, Isabella's in the hospital. I froze. What happened? Exhaustion, nervous breakdown, she fainted right at work. I didn't want to go. But conscience, that damned inner voice, wouldn't let me be. When I entered the ward, Isabella was sleeping. Pale with an IV. Mom sat nearby. She keeps mumbling your name in her sleep, Mom whispered. Please don't leave right away. I stayed. Sat down, looked at her features. And suddenly realized. Despite everything, I still see my little sister in her. The same girl I built blanket forts with. Giggled with, argued over clothes. Dreamed about the future with. And it hurt differently. Not from anger, from pity. When she woke up, the first thing she said was, Sophia, are you really here? I nodded. She burst into tears. Forgive me. Enough, I interrupted. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But I have to say, I didn't know he'd lie to you. He said you were leaving. And you believed him, I snorted bitterly. Yes, I was an idiot. She lowered her head. If I could turn back time. You'd do it anyway, I said, because you've always taken what you wanted. After discharge, she tried to get closer to me. Sent messages, called. But I ignored her. Once Mom said, she wants you to come to a family dinner. No. Sophia, please, she's changed. People don't change, Mom, they just hide better. 7 months passed. I changed jobs, rented an apartment. Started therapy. Slowly regained control of my life. And suddenly got a text from an unknown number. You should know the truth. Isabella and Nathan are together again. I didn't believe it. But then I saw a photo. Them together. At an exhibition. Holding hands. My pulse pounded so hard I almost dropped the phone. I called Mom. Is it true? She went silent. And that was enough. Mom, did you know? I didn't want to tell you, they're just trying to start fresh. Start fresh, after everything. Mom cried. He loves her, Sophia, and she's really trying to be better. I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. Tried to understand what I felt. Anger, pain, disgust. No. Just a vacuum. I finally understood. They suit each other. And I deserve peace. A few weeks later, I received an invitation. Wedding, Isabella and Nathan. I looked at the card, their smiling faces. And for the first time in a long time, I laughed. Loudly, nervously, with a hitch. Almost hysterically. Then I neatly folded the invitation and threw it into the fireplace. The paper flared up instantly. Now, as I write this, 3 years have passed. I have a new life. A new city. I met someone who doesn't betray. And more importantly, I learned to breathe again. Recently, Mom called again. Isabella wants to talk. About what? She says she regrets it. She wants you to be part of her life. I replied. Tell her I no longer have a sister, only a memory. And let it stay where it belongs in the past. Almost 6 years have passed. If someone had told me back then that I'd be able to laugh, sleep peacefully, trust people again, I wouldn't have believed it. But life knows how to heal wounds if you stop picking at them every day. I live in Seattle. I have a cozy apartment on the 5th floor with a view of the Old Quarter, where every morning the air smells of donuts and lattes. I work at a museum complex, where there's calm, dim light and the smell of canvas. Sometimes I catch myself thinking that I'm just comfortable. No storms, no drama, no agony. I have a partner, Marco, Italian, modest, sensitive. He doesn't pry, doesn't dig into the past. He's just there, and that's enough. We don't live together, but every Sunday we have breakfast at a tiny bistro on the corner. He always orders the same, scrambled eggs with bacon, espresso without sugar, and asks, "Are you smiling genuinely today or out of politeness?" I giggled. Today, genuinely. Everything was peaceful. Until one morning, when the mailbox reminded me that the past doesn't fade, it just waits for the moment to resurface. A letter from Canada. No return address. Inside, a note and a photo. In the photo, a girl about 5 years old. Blonde hair, green eyes. Inscription below. For my Aunt Sophia, from Arya. I sank to the floor. My pulse pounded in my temples. In the envelope was a second letter from Isabella. Sophia. If you're reading this, it means I finally dared. I'm not asking you to forgive me. But there's something you should know. I have a daughter, she's 5. And her father is Nathan. My hands shook. I didn't want you to find out this way. But the doctor said, I don't have much time left. Illness, I tried to fight, but now I want only one thing. For Arya to know she has family. I'm not asking you to take her, just don't turn her away. She's innocent. I reread those lines 30 times. Tears blurred my eyes. But my mind remained cold. Illness, child, mercy. As if fate decided to test me again on purpose. I didn't respond right away. A week passed, then 2. Every evening, I sat with the letter in my hands and couldn't tear it up. Throw it away. Or read it again. Marco noticed I'd changed. Something happened, he asked. Just a letter from the past. Bad news. I don't know, I said, probably yes. A month later, I still went to Canada. Not because I wanted to see Isabella, but because I couldn't not go. When I entered the ward, she was already almost a ghost. Emaciated, transparent. Eyes huge, no malice left in them. She looked at me and smiled. I knew you'd come. I said nothing. Just stood there, not knowing what to feel. She spoke first. I don't expect forgiveness. I want you to see Arya. Why? Because she's your family. After everything you did, you dare ask this. She weakly chuckled. I'm not asking, I'm just hoping. Silence hung over us, heavy as a weight. Does she know about me? I asked. Yes, I told her she has an aunt, kind and strong. I couldn't let her think she has no one. Tears stung my eyes. I turned away. Why now, Isabella? Why only when everything's falling apart? She said quietly. Because now I know what it's like to lose. And now I understand that the pain I caused you is what I'll take with me. When I left the hospital, a nurse met me with the child by the hand. Miss Sophia, this is Arya. The girl looked up at me. Are you Aunt Sophia? I nodded. I guess so. She beamed. Mom said you have eyes like mine. And it's true. The same green. The same Isabella's. That evening, I returned to my sister. She could barely speak anymore. I sat beside her and took her hand. She's beautiful and very much like you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Thank you. I don't know if I can forgive, I said, but maybe I can stop hating. She nodded. That's already a lot. I added. I'll take care of Arya. Isabella closed her eyes. I knew you'd say that. 2 days later, she was gone. The funeral was quiet. No Nathan, no his family. Just me, Mom, and the girl, who stood clutching a red rose in her hands. After the ceremony, Mom approached me. You did the right thing, Sophia. I smiled tiredly. Maybe for the first time in a long time. Now as I write this, Arya is already 7. She lives with me in America. We walk together, read at bedtime. And every time she laughs, it seems to me that somewhere out there, in another dimension, Isabella is smiling too. Sometimes I wonder if I'd forgiven earlier, maybe everything would have turned out differently. But probably, some scars need to remain scars, to remind us who we've become. Recently, Arya asked, Aunt Sophia, are you mad at Mom? I was silent for a long time. Then I said, I used to be. Not anymore. She made a mistake, a huge one. But then she tried to make up for it. Arya nodded. I love you. I hugged her. And I love you, kiddo. Sometimes at night, I pull out an old photo where Isabella and I are still little, holding hands. And I think, maybe love isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes, it's about the ability not to seek revenge, even when the pain demands retribution. AITA for not forgiving my sister. Maybe. But looking at the shining Arya, I understand. If I'd forgiven too soon, I wouldn't have learned to love properly. And now, finally, it's not hard for me to remember. I'm just at peace.